Welcome back to Fly Fishing Hatches. I'm Raj Kletke. Now that we've tied a Trico spinner in Part 2, in Part 3 we'll learn how to fish it. We'll also discuss other mayfly spinner falls. A spent spinner is dead, so fish it dead drift. The Trico spinner is very small and empty of eggs, so a single fly has very little nutritional value. Trout need to conserve their energy, so commonly they will be feeding in relatively flat, quiet water whenever possible. Where to fish is obvious, as you'll see numerous rising fish. In fact, if you don't see rising fish during a Trico spinner fall, move to another part of the stream until you do. Don't waste time blind fishing with a Trico spinner. Look for quiet indentations in the bank, coves, backwaters, eddies, etc., as this is where the largest fish will commonly be feeding. There will usually be fish rising in the faster currents, but these are commonly smaller fish. Also be aware of the kissing sound that whitefish make as they feed heavily on Trico spinners. So fish rising fish in the quieter waters first, and you'll probably catch the larger fish. Often you have to fish across a current into quiet water, so you must be able to control your line to prevent drag. This is known as mending your line. To mend your line once the fly is in the water without moving the fly is very difficult, but it can be done if you mend early, as we might discuss later in this series. But generally it's easier and better to mend your line during the cast, which is known as an aerial mend. Of course, all the line control doesn't help a dead drift unless you use a long, thin tippet to prevent micro drag at the fly. For a Trico spinner fall, I usually start with a 6X 3-foot long tippet, even with a size 22 hook. Only rarely have I felt that a 7X tippet might make a difference. But another rule of thumb, in addition to the one that we talked about earlier of going to a smaller fly if you're getting refusals, is that if you're getting refusals, also go to a longer and thinner tippet. There are many slackline casts that we might talk about in the future, but the one cast you'll really need and will use the most during a Trico spinner fall is the reach cast. I'll try to show you how to do it, but look online as there are many good videos by far better casters than I am. Get some extra line in your line hand. First, do your normal forward cast to get the timing. Keep the extra line in your line hand. Then start the forward cast in the usual way again, but as you're finishing your cast following the line down with your rod, also reach to the side at the same time. Release the extra line as you're reaching so that you don't pull your fly back from the target. Once you're comfortable reaching in the easiest direction, be sure to practice reaching both to the right and to the left, as you'll need to be able to do both directions when you're on the river. Here's a straight cast, followed by a reach to the right, and then a reach to the left. I'm using the end of my fly line so you can see it on this video, but ideally you should use a fly on the end of your tippet. Practice by laying out a hula hoop, old bike tire, or some target, and make straight casts until you're hitting the target consistently. Keep the same casting motion, but now add the reach and release the line. You should still hit the target. Practice until you have this down. You'll be glad that you did. In a riffle, casting quartering upstream may work, but generally you'll be fishing flat water, where I recommend casting quartering downstream with an upstream reach cast. Obviously, I'm not an artist, but you can see the concept here. Aim a vertical cast at your target along the dashed line. Use an upstream reach cast. You can try to do additional vertical wiggles as you reach with your rod, or do a curve cast if you want to add more slack. But for most of us, these casts aren't very accurate, and a straight reach cast is usually adequate. Occasionally you'll be casting directly downstream. There's multiple ways of doing this without spooking the fish. We'll be talking about some of these casts later in this series, or you can look these up online now. But for this video, concentrate on learning the reach cast. Always let the fly swing below and to the side of the fish before recasting when you are fishing downstream. Occasionally, very heavy spinner falls will literally result in a mat of Trico spinners on the water. Trout may lie just below the surface and rhythmically gulp multiple Tricos with each rise. Placement and timing become critical to try to catch these fish. I'm not a good enough caster to consistently hit such a small target, and commonly I can't even see my spinner. So while I prefer to fish a single fly to get the best dead drift, here I do drop the spinner about 12 to 18 inches off a size 14 to 16 elk hair caddis, which becomes my indicator fly. Then I set my target about 3 feet upstream and past the rising trout. I cast quartering downstream past my target and pull the spinner back into the target. Here I'm using the end of my fly line so you can see it. Pull the line back by raising your rod straight up. When the fly is in the target, lower your rod and let the fly drift towards the fish. If the trout doesn't strike, let the fly drift below the fish before casting again and repeating the pullback. Timing is also critical, so it may take many casts. Or you may not catch that fish. Or occasionally that trout will interrupt its rhythmic feeding and take the elk hair caddis, your indicator fly. So much for selective feeding. In summary, fishing a Trico spinner fall is usually a numbers game, as many naturals also go past the rising fish without being taken. It will often take numerous casts, sometimes 30 or more, to a single fish to get a strike. So be as efficient as possible with your casting. Try to get as near to the fish as you can without spooking them. This allows you to use a short line cast so you can control the drag better, and after only a short drift past the trout, you can cast again. Try not to make many false casts, as that just wastes time. Keep your fly on the water. The common advice is to target a single fish. I will do this if one fish appears especially large, but sometimes I do better if I cast to multiple fish sharing a small area. Perhaps they're competing for food and just don't check out my fly as well. Try both approaches and see what works best for you. For reasons I don't understand, sometimes the fish abruptly stop rising, even when I can still see a few Trico spinners on the surface. I'll try sinking my spinner then, and occasionally I'll hook an extra fish. Of course, the sunken spinner also works earlier in the hatch, sometimes even better than fishing on the surface, but I prefer to fish the surface through most of the Trico spinner fall. After the fish stop rising in your area, you can sometimes walk the bank and look for small back eddies where spinners have accumulated. You may find additional rising fish, sometimes several hours after the major spinner fall has ended. Do other mayflies have spinner falls? Definitely. Many common mayflies have spinner falls which may be fishable events. These spinner falls usually aren't as well defined or as consistent as the Trico spinner falls though. But you should always carry some spinner patterns with you. Generally, except for the fly, you'll fish these spinner falls somewhat similar to the Trico spinner, partially dependent on the kind of water that you're finding the spinners in. I usually find that carrying some rusty spinners in sizes 14 to 18 are adequate for most of my fishing, but check online or your fly shop for what spinners to have when and where you'll be fishing. You'll need larger spinners also, possibly. Incidentally, I did tie wider tails on this fly than usual so that you would notice them. I wanted to show you that I still tie the classical spinner with split tails for the larger spinners. I don't really know why I do this. It's probably just out of tradition. I don't get the chance to fish the other spinner falls as consistently as the Trico spinner falls, but someday I will experiment with Al style, in other words, this reverse style, for those spinner falls also. Even if we consider specific mayflies, the possible variations in their spinner falls are quite great. I think that it's better to approach other spinner falls by looking at when to suspect a spinner fall. Most of these other spinner falls may occur any time of day, anywhere on the stream, and may occur by themselves or mixed in with other hatches. But you should especially consider a possible spinner fall when you see relatively quiet rises on quiet water without an obvious organism. Look closely at the water surface for spent spinners, which usually in quiet water you'll be able to find. You may even want to strain the surface with an aquarium net to look for organisms. If you don't see any spinners or other organisms, consider a midge hatch. In faster water with splashier rises, in addition, you have to consider a possible caddis hatch. I'll discuss these other hatches in the future in this series. Are there other trico hatches that we want to fish? Absolutely. Tricos emerge also. There are some differences for trico emergence hatches that I'll point out at the time, but we'll be tying flies and discussing emergence hatches under blue-winged olives, another common hatch that you're likely to see each year. So join us for part 4 of fly fishing hatches when we start tying flies for and fishing blue-winged olive hatches. I'm Raj Kletke, and I'll see you soon.